Now we just want to take some time to obviously chat with Conor. There's if you don't know Conor, professional boxer, 16-0, undefeated. How many by knockout?
I think it's 11 now.
11. And Phil wasn't knocked out, so he's like done better than 5 of the other guys you fought.
God's in his corner.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's hope for his professional boxing career yet. Now, we just wanted to take some time to chat with Conor, obviously. There's something that happens, I think, not that I can talk from experience, but certainly from observation, is your life and the way that I suppose you have to conduct yourself, the industry in which you're in, is quite one that's public. Obviously, you're a professional, so it's not like you're amateur. You can't hide behind that. You're on display for everyone. And Conor is a member of our church. He's one of us. He's one of our brothers. So we haven't just rung him up and said, "Hey, what are you doing today? Feel like coming down and speaking for us or with us?" He's actually part of our church. And so if you haven't seen him around the Dominion, you'll see him around a bit more now. Won't tell you what aisle and what seat he sits in, but we just want to take some time to get to know you. Obviously, the Conor that isn't always on Sky Sports, the one that isn't sat in the ring having a guy throw and launch punches at you. So probably a good place to start is, where did you grow up, mate?
Well, I grew up in Spain. I lived in Spain for 12 years. I went to church over there, grew up, raised in a Christian household. Then moved to Sydney for 5 years, and that's where I discovered Hillsong with my family. Went to the Hills campus for 5 years. My family's still over there now. I've come back to the UK on my own, and this is where I discovered Hillsong London.
How did you, when you say you came home, what was one of the reasons for you coming back?
I feel like coming back here, for me, it was, making my imprint in the sport, do you know what I mean? Obviously, my dad was 2-time world champion, and...
Your dad is?
Conor Benn. He's the Dark Destroyer. I weren't dark. I'm not dark enough to be called the Dark Destroyer, so we just went with the Destroyer. I mean, it suits, though.
I was actually going to ask where you got your name from.
That's where I got it from, but as I said, I ain't dark enough, so the Destroyer will do.
So you speak fluent Spanish?
Pues claro.
Some compadres here. Is that even Spanish?
A little bit, yeah.
Amigos.
Yeah, amigos.
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 Gos, that's it.
Gos. Okay, cool. Dan's going to jump in and ask questions as well whenever you...
Hola, me llamo Dan. Una cerveza, por favor.
Una cerveza. ¿Quieres una cerveza?
What? I did Spanish GCSE and I just memorized, my name is Dan, 1 beer please. That's all I know in Spanish.
That's enough for when you're on holiday.
In Mallorca.
In Mallorca, yeah. Let me jump in, mate. I've always been a fan of your tats, but I realised recently you got one under your neck. What does that say, mate?
Fear is a lie.
And I love that, mate, because I was just thinking myself, like, as men, we all have different battles to face. How do you actually deal with fear, like, in your mind when actually the fear comes?
I mean, it's hard, but I really do have to rely on God with my fear. I think where I am now, I couldn't have planned it. I really couldn't. And to be at the platform I am now, fighting in front of thousands, I didn't prepare for this. I didn't plan this. And, sometimes I got to sit down and remind myself that no matter how hard I train, I train hard. No matter what I do, where I'm going to be in 5 years, I've just got to remind myself that, God's in control, really. All I can do is do my bit. And then the worrying, I've just got to trust God with. I deal with it every single day. Every single day.
One thing that you were sharing before is obviously boxing's a brutal sport. It's not like it's lawn bowls. As far as I'm aware, that's non-contact. But you're in a sport though, in all honesty, where people die. You've got a wife. How do you handle that? I would struggle, I would think. How do you guys handle that?
It is hard. It's been like 4 deaths in the last 4 months, and I just found out today, another fighter's passed away in sparring. And, sometimes you got to weigh it all up. And, it is scary, because that could be me. And it's when I go into the ring, we all know the risks we take. And, that's something you can't help but trust God with. You know, I worry every single day. Even inside, outside the ring, I still deal with my thoughts. And if, you know, on Sky Sports, you go out, you know, you can't show no vulnerability. You got to talk like you're the greatest. You got to talk like you've got so much confidence in yourself, like so many other fighters do. But the reality is, when I go into the ring, I don't have faith in my ability. I can assure you that now. You know, I have faith that I go in there with a legion of angels. I pray with Gary Clark. My family's still in Australia and Hillsong. They'll pray for me. And, you know, I go in there knowing that I'm covered in prayer. And, you know, that's the only thing that gets me through. I can assure you now, forget this bold fighter that you see on Sky Sports. Forget me talking, I'm going to do this and do that, because the reality is, I can't do this without God, and I wouldn't be where I am today without God.
So I love that. You're covered in prayer, but do you prepare for failure, or do you just think because you're covered in prayer, you're not going to fail?
All the time. All the time. I go into a fight thinking it's going to be the hardest fight of my life. And there's been a fight where I got put down twice in the first round, and I managed to win and come back and put him down twice later on in the fight. And I prepare for every single fight as if it's going to be as bad as that. But the reality is, every single fight I've had since then has been the easiest fight going. So, yeah, I prepare for failure all the time. And I'll go to my missus, oh, what would I do if I went boxing? Like, would you be okay if I done scaffolding? No, I'm not. Sometimes I think about it, or painting and decorating, because sometimes I feel like I'm not what everybody thinks I am. I'm not this destroyer, bad-looking guy covered in tattoos. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little boy who just wants no pressure, just to live on his own with his 2 dogs and his missus peacefully and quietly. And then I get in the ring and then I knock some man out cold. So it's, I mean, it's weird. It's weird.
So, how do you guys process that pressure? Like, talk us through that. Obviously, how long have you been with Victoria now?
I've been with Victoria now 4 years. I met her when I turned pro. We got married January the 2nd, which is crazy, because I just didn't think I'd be married so young. But also, she supports me. I mean, I give her hell during camp. I mean, imagine me not being able to eat any food, having to get up at like 5 in the morning to do my runs and train, then get my head punched in sparring during the week, and then come home, oh, Conor, you ain't done the washing up. All right, thank you. But no, she helps me. She really does help me, and I think emotional support, is really needed. Behind every strong man is a strong woman, and, that's facts.
How much of what you're going through will you actually share with Victoria? Is there some stuff which are just like, I'm just going to deal with this between me and God and me and a mate, or will you kind of let her in what you're going through?
No, I think, it's definitely, Vic's definitely someone I can, unload to. Everything that goes on through my head. I mean, my thoughts can go so low, and she'll remind me why I am where I am. It isn't just, I just happen to be where I am. Like sometimes I really do think, should I do painting and decorating? I really enjoy painting and decorating. I'm being serious. Who enjoys painting and decorating?
Are you applying for an apprenticeship? If there's anyone who's got a painting and decorating company, you're at a camp right now.
I think the Ben Painting Academy. That sells. But no, she definitely helps me through all of it, to be honest. I mean, I'd have lows on days where I don't even need to have lows. I'm my harshest critic, when it comes down to anything. And I think that's the way you've got to be in this sport. I keep myself on my toes. It's so easy to get complacent with the life I live now, having, a good life, by the grace of God. And just remember that, there's always someone out there hungrier. So that hunger needs to remain. And the reality is, why do I fight? And I've got to ask myself that every single time, because your health's on the line.
Just question in closing. What is, you mentioned the highs and the lows. What would be one of the lowest points for you?
Lowest points for me would probably be when I'm out of camp, when there is nothing to do, where the enemy tries to attack, and I have to remind myself that God loves me, remind myself that I have a beautiful wife, I have a beautiful 2 dogs, I am in a blessed position that many would love to be in. I have a family that love me in Australia, and, I've got an amazing church here, I've got an amazing Pastor Reese who looks after me, and I'm blessed. Like, when you actually sit back and from outside looking in, I am so blessed. What is there to worry about? Look at where I am. What things I was worrying about last year, they didn't even happen. But yeah, I spent half the year worrying about them. Why? you've ruined that whole year worrying about something that never even happened. And, you know, that's what I think all of us men should really focus on, is doing what we can do and then relying on God to do the rest. Because, you know, faith of a mustard seed, he can move mountains.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. That was awesome. Now you
Is Phil coming back in? Or
faith is a mustard seed, yes. There's a small chance. So you talked about Reese, and there's obviously, we've got Tony here, your coach as well. So why don't we get Reese and Tony up here with us? Make some room. Coming up, boys. Take a seat. Do you want any water? No. Probably didn't get a sweat on, did you?
No, I was gonna do a 10K run before this.
Me and Dan are sweating more than you, I think, mate. All right. Here in the middle, we have Tony. Everyone welcome Tony. And while you're at it, Reese, if you don't know Reese. So, Tony, do you want to tell everyone who you are, how you know Conor? Yeah, I think you're good.
Done?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I've been a professional trainer for 25 years. I used to spar in the old days with Conor's dad, so he's been a friend of mine for a good 30 years now. And I met Conor obviously through his dad bringing him down to my gym, and we just linked up from there. Really.
That's amazing. So would you say you've played a huge role, a huge part in Conor's professional career to date? That's mine. So it was before you went pro. That's when he started training with you at your gym.
Yeah, he come to my gym to spar one of my fighters who was a good prospect coming up, and Conor actually put him down in the first round. So I thought this kid ain't gonna be bad, you know. So I think I took him to a matchroom show at the O2, and Conor said to me afterwards, "Oh boy, I want to turn pro. This is what I want to do," you know. So and he's gone on from there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So and then Reese over here. Reese, how do you know Conor? Tell everyone.
Yeah, I'm a pastor at Hillsong, and when Conor moved over, he'd been here for about a year or something like that, and his mom was looking to connect him with some people in church. So some of the guys in Sydney connected us, and he came down to church, and yeah, all kind of started from there.
So you're obviously you're a team. Something in which I think we probably don't give enough attention to in life is the people around us. We talk about having mates. We talk about people who have our back. We talk about people who would sit in our corner for us. What do these guys do for you? And what, let's start with that one. What do these guys do for you personally?
On a personal level, forget boxing. I mean, they're both men of faith. And, that's a massive part of my life. Me, my trainer, Reese, we always pray before we go into the ring, before we go into battle. And, they're just there for me. Do you know what I mean? I have contact Reese all the time when I need him. And most of the times out of camp, when I'm in camp, it's like, yo, I'm training. That's it, don't call me, I'm training. But then out of camp is where, I'll Reese, these thoughts, I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these thoughts. Even with Tony, so when I first turned pro, it got a bit too much for me. My debut was in front of 18,000 at the O2. And you can't prepare yourself for that. And, I wasn't supposed to be, it was just crazy, you're just standing there, what do? You can't prepare yourself for it. There was a time where it just got a little bit too much, and I broke down in Tone's office and started crying, and he'd just be like, no, you'll be all right, you'll be all right. And, I take confidence in my team I've got around me. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes being young, you're not sure whether you're thinking the right thing or whether it's the right thing you're thinking. But it's nice to have, my trainer, Reese, my missus, my dad, godly people around me.
I love that. I just love the whole, put your hands together. So strong. I love the whole thought, man. Imagine if every single lad in this house had a circle around them that they could trust like that. What were some of the characteristics of Reese that you, because you must have met a lot of Christians in your time, right? But what was it about Reese that stood out?
So I grew up in Spain in a very, very, very religious church. I mean, it was like very religious, turned me away from God. And I had a lot of bad habits. When I come to Hillsong, London, I had to break. And Reese said to me, Conor, just pray. Just say God's grace and his mercy will cover you and the addictions will break. And I thought, I thought this pastor's nuts. I said, I thought this pastor is off his head. Like, he is nuts. And then I done that, and then the chains fell. And then I told Reese, and I was like, that actually worked. And I couldn't actually believe it, because, like, you know, you hear God's grace, God's mercy. And, you know, his grace and his mercy covered me and, you know, has actually relieved me from a lot of things. So, yeah.
I'm always curious about the relationship from the perspective of, you talk about in and out of camp. Obviously in camp you sound like you're very focused. I don't know if you experience probably like the mental, whether it be an attack or the doubt or whatever, you know, you don't experience it as much. When would you say that you lean most on Reese?
Round about now.
Well, we'll give you guys a moment.
No, maybe 3-4 weeks after a fight, when if I'm not training, you know, my mind can completely wander to, am I any good? It's often related to boxing. Like, I'm not what people think I am. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, the destroyer, the undefeated, the this, the that. When really I think it's like, I don't see myself that way. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. I see what you're saying. Well, then, maybe with Tony, because it's obviously with boxing, a lot of it seems like it's a very mental thing. If I'm watching it, it seems like a sport in which you need to be very confident, have I don't want to say an ego, but there's quite a bit of showmanship. How do you coach Conor, not just in the whole duck and weave, throw a jab, hook kind of thing, but just in like for him as a person? Because obviously you train a lot of guys. Conor's not your only boxer. So how do you find that balance between Conor, the Christian Conor, and then Conor, the professional? How do those mirror? Is it like you've got days when we're training and it's like we're game face and there's like, we're just not compromising this, you need to be in the zone, you just need to toughen up and this is going to happen? Or you're like, how do you walk them through that?
Yeah, we say in the boxing that it's 70% mental and 30% physical. So what I always try to do is I like to get to know the athlete in a more personal way, as well as just on a daily training basis. And then that brings me into getting into their mind and getting a mental stimulation out of them through talking to them the way that they need to be talked to. Some of them need to be spoken to with an arm around them and softly, and others need to be spoken to more harshly. It depends on the actual individual, but I like to go into the mind games of the fighters and try and get into their mind before they get into the ring, and obviously all the way through camping and up until the ring. And I know how to work like Conor, because I've had him from a teenage age as well, so I know what stimulates him, how to get him motivated, and that's how I work. And obviously, like, I'll become a born-again Christian like 10 years ago now, so I wasn't brought up into a Christian family. Really, I only used to go to church for funerals and weddings, so that's another story anyway. But because of our faith in God as well, we can speak about God openly, about the Lord Jesus Christ, how he helps us, through our day.
It's awesome. I was just thinking, you mentioned about hunger. There might be another fighter who's got more hunger than you. And I think all of us, there'll be seasons in life where we lack drive. You know, some of us might be in like 5th gear right now going for it. Some of us might be in 1st gear. Some of us might be in neutral. How do you help individuals find that drive again, get that hunger back up?
Well, from the beginning, or?
Yeah, I mean, just in life. I mean, probably looking at boxes, you might be able to apply something for general life. But let's just say you know he hasn't got the drive and the hunger that he used to have. Like, how do you help him get that drive back?
That's never the case. I don't think that's something the trainer has to do, because I don't think the trainer would train a fighter who hasn't got drive, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't think, like, boxing is a sport that, you can't go in without drive. You have to have that drive. As Conor was saying, you have to have that hunger to push you through. And as long as I think that you believe in the Lord and the Lord's looking over you and you're walking in the Lord's path on your quest for glory, then you get that hunger with you as well to go through that.
With drive, discipline, that's one of the things that pops into mind, discipline. We say that discipline begets discipline. Obviously within camp and even outside of the camp, I imagine there's things in which you have to be super disciplined with. Sometimes I'm an emotional eater, so things happen to me and I'll take to a tub of ice cream or something like that. I know you can't do that during camp. You can't tell, I realise that. I joined a gym a couple of weeks ago and I've been once. No, but what I'm saying is, like, you have to be obviously disciplined with what you do. How do you, like, help us understand what discipline means to you and how you stay disciplined?
What, as in routine?
Routine, talk us through it.
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm doing my long runs in the morning, 10-kilometre runs. Then Tuesday, Thursday mornings, doing sprints in the morning. Back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, got sparring. Tuesdays and Thursdays, agility work, boxing work, and then in the evenings, strength and conditioning. Saturdays, long run and S&C, Sunday rest. So we're in total training Tuesdays and Thursdays 3 times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday twice. Tuesdays and Thursdays are like 6 a.m. starts, sprints, which, like, either one of our stablemates are throwing up, either one, without foul. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we got sparring, which is hard because sparring's basically what me and Phil done, but times 100. Literally.
Listening to this, it does not make me want to be a boxer one minute thing, but I think it's absolutely incredible. So we see 2 of your team at the moment. Who else is behind the scenes? Who else have you got in your corner?
I've got my wife, I've got my cousin, and I've got a good friend of mine, Kaleem, and my lawyer, who's Lee, and that's it really. But those are the people I've had with me from the beginning, from the minute I turned pro. It's people who know me well. People I can rely on, people I can lean on, and that's it really.
You don't need heaps, do you?
No, because then you got to question. You question a lot as to why they're your friends, and then they slip up and say something that shows their true agenda, and it's just like I'm happy with the people I've got around me, and the thing is they're all older, and when I mean older, I mean. Yeah, I know it. I'm 23, so they're like 38.
Yes, he is 38. Yeah,
yeah, my missus is 31. They're all 38, 43. So, when I sit down, sometimes I sit down and think, God's put a good people, like team around me, without me even realising, are people who have my best interests at heart, which is, important.
I think that's what I've noticed, that your circle encourage you in your discipline. So no one's like, oi, have this Ben & Jerry's, or have this drink, or just chill out a little bit.
I've got that person in my right shoulder.
Right, yeah. And it's amazing how sometimes in life we carry those people around us thinking we should have them in our circle, but they're actually just stopping us being the disciplined person that we want to be. So I love the fact that you've chosen so well, and the people that you know and you know them. What does the future look like for Conor Benn? Like, do you think future, like 10 years, 5 years?
Yeah, I do, but when I first turned pro, I thought I was going to be world champion tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So now I realise, like, is that even a possibility? Like, it's so hard, this sport. Like, people do not realise how hard it is and how much harder it gets. And, I'm grafting as hard as I can do. But again, with faith of a mustard seed, God can move mountains. So, hopefully next time I'm on here, I've got a world championship around my waist.
Do you, when you're being interviewed by Sky Sports or those other kind of more the boxing fraternity world, are are you careful with what you say in terms of your faith? Like, you know, some people, footballers maybe, they'll walk on and they'll cross themselves, and it's like, do they even believe what they're doing? Like, I see your routine when you go around, like, talk is like, how do you do that? Because I would find it hard. Sometimes I find it hard enough to tell someone that I'm a Christian.
No way.
That kind of thing. How do you do it?
No way. So we pray before we go into battle all the time. You know, that goes without fail. That's something we always do. And then when I get in the ring, you'll see in all my fights, you know, I go on my knees and I pray. This is my prayer every single time, even in sparring. Like, even in the gym when I'm training, God give me strength, power, courage, wisdom, and I pray your will be done. Because if it is his will for me to lose, for some reason, it's his will, so there is no losing. And, you know, that's the way I look at it.
It's epic, mate. It's funny because you're talking as a pro boxer, but yeah, everything you're saying I feel like is applicable to our everyday life. You and your dad, I've met your dad, Nigel, and I think you've got a great relationship. And we heard a few stories today where some people didn't have their dad around. What was that relationship like with your dad growing up?
I didn't have a good relationship with my dad growing up at all. And obviously I ain't going to speak out of turn. If my dad was here, he'd say what I'm going to say. You know, he had confessed 16 years of affairs to my mum. And I struggled to deal with that because he was my hero growing up. You know, I looked up to him. And then obviously he changed his life around, but I still hadn't come to terms with it. So, you know, and I thought I was a man when I was 16. And, you know, when your dad's two-time world champion, there's no arguing. You know, I just got to bite down on my tongue. And I know there's nothing I can say. So I remember that time clear as day. And then I got in trouble in Australia. And, you know, I'd come home, you know, 2 minutes past the time he said be home, and we'd have a row, a massive fight. And then when I've actually got in proper trouble, he's gone, son, I love you. And then literally as soon as that broke the ice, and me and my dad, he's like a brother to me now.
Yeah, that's amazing. My dad, the way he talks about his dad is he'd never heard I love you from him. But I know for me, it's something my dad always like spoke into me. I realized the role of a father is one that's super important. What the stories we heard earlier on was just about some guys sharing about their life, and, you know, some present fathers and some absent fathers. And what I love about yours is that God has turned around what could potentially ruin a family and ruin your life to whatever extent. But to see the way that you guys have, obviously with God at the middle of it all, has been able to repair and restore and build, and you really do. You got an amazing relationship.
I mean, definitely. And I mean, the older I get, the more I seem to understand what my dad was trying to tell me, but I couldn't understand. Like, I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me because I hadn't lived it. But he was just so worried for me because he loved me, but he just didn't know how to tell me, or he didn't know how to show me. Why was he punishing me? Why was he telling me off? Because he was worried for me. But now I understand, and now I love him more for that. Although I hated him at the time. But I didn't realise, and, you know, now I know that he was preparing me for the life I now live today. But without me even realising why he was so harsh on me, why he was trying to get me to understand this and understand that, I had no idea what he was talking about. But now I understand. And if he didn't raise me that way, there's no way I'd be so level-headed in the position I'm in right now if he weren't as harsh on me.
Just one of the questions for closing is, you talk about level-headedness. Obviously, you've got two of your main guys beside you right now. What's some things that you say to Conor to keep him level-headed?
I don't think, with Conor, you don't have to work too hard with that, because he's genuinely a humble guy. He's got a, you know, he doesn't get ahead of himself. He doesn't think too much of himself. But I think when we first started spending time together, talking about the stuff he was dealing with, one of the big things really was just this real giving him a good understanding of the grace of God. He kind of mentioned it earlier, but our journeys were quite similar. You know, coming from a church background that was maybe slightly different, but we both kind of had this, a bit of a misunderstanding of where to place God in our lives, and kind of the way our relationship should work with God, the way God saw us. So really just, you know, I spent some time just trying to help him with that, help him with the journey I've done, and giving him a good understanding of like just God's grace and how God's a loving Father. And I think if you start from that place in life, just understanding how much God loves you, how much He just always wants the best from you, that always just keeps you in a good spot. That always just keeps you heading in the right direction. So that's the thing I always just try and steer him back to. It's just the love of God.
That's amazing. And Tony, how do you keep Conor level-headed?
Well, I'll keep an eye on his food for starters. This boy loves his food. Yeah, no, he's a level-headed boy for his age, and he knows what he wants to do in life. You know, and I think he's got a great future. And I said to him a long time ago, he possibly could be better than his dad as a fighter. You know, he's got every ingredient to be better than his dad. You know, so we pray together, and I'm just looking forward to his career, really.
Yeah, I think we all are, aren't we? We are. Can we just put our hands together?